Welcome to Jar of Genius. I'm your host, Russ Perry, and this is a podcast where we dive into the business of creativity. Each episode, I'll explore the minds and stories of innovative leaders and companies who have paved the way and are shaping the future for creative businesses around the world. From groundbreaking business models to extraordinary creative campaigns and the innovations of technology we use and will use ahead, I'm excited to help you not only run a creative business, but thrive in this ever-changing and always challenging landscape. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Jar of Genius. I'm your host, Russ Perry, and today we are being joined by someone I've known when we were much younger. We might both have, both had a little bit more hair. Mine's starting to go, but we're still equally hilarious and awesome. I'm here with Ross Navandi, the founder and CEO of Now Pools. Ross, welcome, man.
Thank you, Russ.
It's been a long time since the ASU days, Arizona State University.
It has been a long time. Now I have a lot less hair, as you alluded to, and I'm jealous of what you have remaining.
It goes faster every year with, kids and stress and all of that. But maybe you just had a harder life since we first met each other when we were like 18 and 20 and figuring things out in Tempe, Arizona.
I think running a business will do that to us. I'm blaming it on that.
Well, dude, so we were riffing and I'm going to just jump right back into it. So everybody who's listening, we were lucky to have social media because you can kind of creep on people that you don't talk to. And I probably haven't talked to you in 20 years or so, it's been a while. You're a few years older than me. You graduated ASU and we went in and did our things. Maybe we bumped into each other a few times, but I was creeping on LinkedIn and for whatever reason, the algorithm popped up your information and it was talking about, you were doing a post on how it's pool season. And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, what's going on? Like, this is interesting. And then you were like, yeah, it's pool season. It's time to get your pool. And I kind of looked in deeper and I saw that you have essentially a subscription pool company. And I was like, just blown away. Not because of pools, they're all right, whatever, aside, but the fact that you have created a subscription model, which I love, Design Pickle, shout out, self-plug for that. I'm like proud, hey, we did subscription services for design, but you're like in a whole other space where you're doing subscription lifestyle. Like, I don't know how you define it internally, but like, dude, let's talk about it. Like, how did you land up as the pioneer of subscription splash and play?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. We call ourselves an on-demand pool and spa company. Okay. So I'll break down the sales pitch for you, but basically our clients get a subscription and we go out and we set up an above ground pool for them. We then take care of all the weekly cleaning and maintenance and chemicals and any parts that break, any warranty issues, and then we remove the pool at the end of the subscription. So essentially you have a pool when you want it in the summertime and you don't have to deal with anything in the wintertime. Unless, of course, you want a spa, and then we can do the same subscription model with a spa. So that's kind of the basic idea of what we offer. And it very much is lifestyle based. It is intended to be, a hassle-free experience for our clients as much as possible. And it really grew out of me and my own need and desire because I have a backyard in Arizona, which becomes a death trap for children and the elderly and in the summer. And so I was like, I've got to get my kids outside. I don't have a pool. And quite frankly, I don't want to drop $100,000 or whatever it may cost right now to get an in-ground pool that I can only use for 4 or 5 months of the year. And then I lose access to my backyard during the wintertime when it's beautiful in Arizona.
Right, where you can host parties, hang out, do whatever.
Yeah, so absolutely.
So wait, let's stop. Let's go back.
Yeah.
Lead up to the years before. Were you in home services? Were you I kind of know because I did my research, but I want you to tell us later. How do you go from where you were at? Where were you at to where you're like, I'm going to go do this?
So I was in real estate operations. So I worked for a mutual friend of ours that Russ also knows that did the operations for a real estate team. And in that time, I got pretty good at automations and systems and operations. And I then in 2019 ventured out on my own to do consulting with other small businesses about the same type of stuff, whether it was automation, operations, systems. And from there, honestly, as a new entrepreneur, I wasn't busy enough starting out that business. And I kind of came up with this idea of the on-demand pool company. And the pandemic started to roll around in 2020. And I looked at my wife and I said, if I'm going to do this, this is the time.
Right.
And she begrudgingly said, you're going to do it anyway, so you might as well do it. And thus, that was really kind of the kickoff of Now Pools. And I decided really to kind of take what I had learned in operations and systems and technology into a very physical product, which you had alluded to earlier. It's very, very much like a service-based product.
Right. Well, that's to me, like, people don't realize this, but I think a lot of our first experiences with subscriptions were for software, right? Like we sign up for Netflix, we sign up for other things, but like we've been doing it a long time before that. Gyms, right? Like there's all sorts of other areas that we have been paying subscriptions for, and then kind of like tech and real life mashed up. That's when we got the Ubers, the Airbnbs. But like I don't feel like that happens a lot. Like I feel like the real world with tech innovations have sort of, for consumers that is, like have sort of kind of what else has been disrupted. Movie passes, that struggled for a while. Like I don't think that worked. But then out of nowhere, you're like, dude, pools, which is like such probably a homeboy old school industry too.
That's exactly right. And when I was strictly in sort of the technology automation space, I felt like I was pretty good at it, but I never felt like I could out technologically battle like a Google or an Amazon or whoever else is a behemoth in the space. And so I kind of thought I needed to translate what I was pretty good at in the automation world into something that probably wouldn't be tackled by one of those tech giants because they just wouldn't have interest and it just wouldn't be in their wheelhouse. And so I looked at the pool industry, obviously with this idea in mind, and realized that it's, no offense to anyone that's been in the pool industry for a long time, but it's a little bit of an archaic, outdated industry. It's a lot of guys with pen and paper and maybe Excel sheets for their routes and not too much beyond that. And so I felt like I could have a big impact with the decent amount of automation and technology that I knew in this space.
Yeah. I love it. There's a brand that comes to mind. They're not subscription. They're not super tech. But for me, I love these like out of nowhere innovations that are just in the like, sometimes, let's say kind of boring, pools are fairly cool, but pun intended. And when I moved, I came across this company called Green Bins. Have you heard of this company?
No, I don't know them.
So it's like hard shell plastic green bins, a green top, something you'd see at like Crate and Barrel or not Crate and Barrel, Container Store. And you just tell them how many you need. They roll up on a cool 4-wheel, big wheel dolly, really easy to move around. You pack them up. They stack perfectly. You put them on this dolly, this cart that wheels like just with one finger. And it's amazing. And I like never thought I'd be so stoked to use a moving thing, but it literally transformed my experience because I wasn't going, finding cardboard boxes, dealing with the tape, wondering what's in them because they're all clear. You can see what's in them. And all these little things, I was like, man, these guys are onto it. But there's so many industries that probably could happen. And I think guys like you and I were like, let's just tackle the boring one. Let's tackle a space where we don't have to be the, AAA perfect, everything goes well industry.
That's exactly right. And I think, for better, for worse, I think people have higher expectations of a better experience in the world right now, because we're seeing little disruptors, maybe not so little disruptors, that are bringing these amazing experiences that I think maybe entrepreneurs like you and I have always thought, like, there's got to be a better experience than, moving sucks. So who can make it better? And even if it's just a sliver of that industry, it takes a little stress and relieves you a little bit from, the boring, terrible experience that moving has typically been. So I think that's a huge, it's always going to be an opportunity for disruptors, but I think it's happening faster and faster as people see the annoying things in life and see what's possible with AI and other technology platforms and how we translate that into real world products.
Absolutely. And the markets are the numbers are so big, and the markets are so big. You don't have to be conquering every piece of everything to make a big difference, have a great business, change it up. And that to me is always really inspiring, especially is like you talk to new entrepreneurs. It's like, be narrow, like just go down the lane and find the thing, because guess what? There's probably 100,000, 1 million people out there who need that thing as narrow as you can get it. And that's a really big business still,
Yeah, I think that there is a little bit of a blessing in being in the niches of the world, because, for us, no one knows that we're an option. Very few people know that we're an option here in the greater Phoenix area. And especially our first and second year, it was completely word of mouth. We did zero marketing and really just were fighting to get our pools out there in the world. But really, we were screwing up a bunch. I mean, we were paying the dumb tax of entrepreneurship, because we are the first company in the world doing what we're doing. So there's no playbook that we can copy.
Right.
So we have to figure out everything on our own. And usually it's the hard way. We always stumble and kick our toe and all that stuff. So we're trying to figure it out as we go. But if we were doing that at scale with 1,000 pools in the Phoenix area, a screw up means, catastrophic results potentially for a business. And so I think there's a little bit, if you can ride the early roller coaster of entrepreneurship by, making those mistakes and figuring out how to fix them while you're flying the plane, if you will, there's a real opportunity to smooth out your product before you're unveiled to the world. And I think that, that's one of the things that I've learned over the last few years as we kind of grew this business and are continuing to grow this business, is I'm kind of grateful that not everyone knew about us our first couple of years in business, because we would have been crushed.
Yeah. So I want to come back to today, but I let's go back to okay, talking to your wife, I have this idea. So what next? Did you just go to Home Depot, get a crazy pool, roll it back, set it up, and you were client number 0? How did that go?
I did not go small on this thing. I went on to Alibaba and I started talking to pool manufacturers in China. And sure enough, I'm trying to say they want me to buy 500 or 1,000 pools. I'm like, well, I'm not quite there yet. I don't have the capital, nor do I have any idea if anyone's going to sign up for this. And so essentially I got, my first order was 42 pools. So
which is a lot from 0.
A lot.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, I have zero idea if I'm the only client that's going to enjoy this or not. And then, I learned an early lesson that some entrepreneurs may appreciate if they've ever had experiences buying things from China, but they basically said they'll be delivered by Memorial Day. And so I was like, perfect, that's great timing. I will kick things off on Memorial Day weekend. That's huge. It's going to be great. So as Memorial Day approaches, I'm contacting my person in China, and they said, yep, we're still on schedule to deliver on Memorial, whatever, May 29th it was. And as that approaches, I clarified, those are going to be delivered in Phoenix on May 29th, right? And they said, oh no, they'll be delivered to the dock in China on May 29th. It's going to be another 3 weeks until they're in the US. And I'm like, oh man. Okay, so learning the language of manufacturers, delivering means they're complete with the product.
Yeah.
And then, so I have to tell, by this time I was testing out our website, making sure everything had worked. And when I was testing it out for, our pools for $1, because I was running real Stripe, transactions, somebody, lo and behold, signs up. Our first person signs up for $1. And I had to double check it, but it truly was someone. It ended up being like a friend of a friend. And thankfully, they signed up for the full price. And then, so I was able to convince them for that. But then, the 42 pools arrive in my driveway in mid-June. And it took the 4 or 5 of us about 5 hours to set up the first pool because we had no idea what we're doing. And then we were out the next morning.
You can't even create a process at this point because you don't even know how it goes.
I don't know how it goes. I've never done one before. I don't know what it takes. And so the next morning, another one of my team members and I went out and we set up 3 pools for clients that had signed up. So again, not the way I would have designed it, but we survived. And, I think that's all that matters.
So it's your 3rd year then, if I'm putting this together?
Actually, so we started in 2020. It's our 4th full season. We started with a half season in the beginning. So we're technically kind of going in.
How many pools do you have out in the world right now?
Yeah, so we're just over 100 pools in the Phoenix area. We are spread all throughout the Phoenix metro area, and we're looking at potential other expansion locations right now.
Right. Where were you last year? From 100 from what?
So last year we were 90, 95 pools last year. So we're up a little bit right now, and right. We'll continue to grow a little bit more in 2024 this summer. Obviously, we're still installing pools right now.
That's amazing. That's so rad. So let's get into we've already covered one, entrepreneur tax of let's make sure we understand manufacturing and shipping and all of that. What was another first year, half season lesson that you learned really fast that you think it made a big impact and kind of put you on a better trajectory from what you learned?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that people listening will say, well, that's obvious if they've ever kind of gone through some things. But when you're in the moment, it's not always obvious. But I think my plans were in a perfect world scenario. And that is not a real world scenario. So, things like these pumps that were coming from China, some of them were not great, honestly. And they, about a month or 2 into the season, they start dying. And I don't have any backup pumps for these pools. And so it's a game of literal, musical chairs, musical pumps. I'm taking a pump off of my own swimming pool and going out to a client's pool and setting that one up so that we can try to troubleshoot what's going on. And so it was it was really challenging when reality started to set in that not everything was going to go perfect, that these products weren't going to be just, perfect, cut and dry, and didn't have to worry about them after we set up. That part of it was a pain in the butt. Servicing these was a huge lesson that they are not easy. So, I think our concept sounds fairly simple and straightforward in that, you set up a pool, it's got all the equipment, it runs perfectly fine. The water never goes green and all that stuff. And then the reality is these aren't perfect. There's a reason why no one's done it before, or no one wants to enter into this space. So, it was kind of one learning lesson after another, which again, probably every entrepreneur has gone through. But for me, it kind of showed me that you can't live in the perfect world scenario. You got to plan for reality. And right. Then what happens when things go wrong, and what's your backup plan? What's your plan B and C and D and Z if needed, to make sure the company keeps moving forward?
Well, one really technical question. Do you do your own servicing, or do you partner with a company to do that?
We do all of our own. That was something we tried to sub it out. And that actually opened up, another area of opportunity for us in that I called probably 25, 30 different pool service companies around the valley. And I could barely get the words like above ground pool out of my mouth before the conversation was done. The reality was that almost no service companies will touch above ground pools. They're just different. And, it was discouraging for a little while, but then I started to piece together, well, dummy, if no one else can do it or no one else is willing to do it, like, why don't you guys do it? So now we offer our cleaning services to other folks that have these above ground pools that are interested in services, but didn't necessarily sign up for one of our subscriptions. So now we have sort of it's not an entire wing, but it's a slightly offshoot of our main company that services other people's above ground pools in addition to our own.
Pump brakes, you got it. You're the guys. You're ready for it to go.
That's right. We're ready.
So clearly the concept of business, all of that, I want to talk for a minute about the brand, because Now Pools is one of those names where it's like, it just makes sense. It's easy. It's not clever. It's just like, this is what it is. And it's a great domain. How did you get this domain? Like this, did you buy secondhand or was it luck of the draw?
It was available.
What?
And yeah, I appreciate you calling it not clever. But
that's a good thing. Like
yes.
Too many people try to launch things and it's spelled weird or there's something and it's like
you take out the vowels and
it's like this is just what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I had been listening to a audiobook. I want to say Mike McCallowitz or somebody like that. I think it's the Pumpkin Plan, but it basically, the concept was like, don't get clever with your business name. People should understand what your brand is, what your services are, like very quickly when they look at it or look at your logo. And so for me, it was like, yeah, I mean, I tried to come up with more clever names, and honestly, it was like, this is simple and the URL is available. So let's do it. I mean, again, all this stuff was done in like a 2-month span initially. And, looking back, I'm pretty happy that we settled on this and obviously got the domain and everything. So it worked out well in the end. And, we've got a kind of a cool, hopefully dad vibe feel to our company. And that's kind of what we're going for.
I mean, that's literally the story of Design Pickle branding. I mean, like, I don't know if you knew, but I did big branding projects prior to Design Pickle with agencies and all this stuff. And afterwards I was like, my agency, no one could understand my agency name. It was spelled with a bunch of soft consonants. So it was like really hard to hear. And eventually I was on, I think it was GoDaddy or whatever, and thinking about this idea of a business. I was like, Design Pickle, I just like pickles. Domain available, done. That's how it was. Like,
you're kidding me. It wasn't like a $10,000 bounty for designpickle.com.
Nothing. It was right out of the gates.
I'm surprised that wasn't already taken.
So tell me about the experience and the stories of your clients, because I'm going to interject before you answer. A lot of times, actually, fun fact, one of my big final projects I did with my agency was actually to rebrand PebbleTech, the surfacing company for pools. And they canceled the project midway through. One of the reasons why I quit the agency, because it was like they just walked away. And I was like, I hate working with big clients that don't pay me. But like their brand was about the prestige, the backyard style, the lifestyle, but not like kids having fun. It was like, look at me be braggy about how dope my high-end pool is. I feel like this is like family experience, have fun, maximize it. And when everyone's sunburnt and tired in August, we get away and you do your next thing. So I want to hear about like, what have been the stories, the impact, the experiences, being able to provide this accessible thing, which like you mentioned, costs hundreds of thousands of dollars usually for, sometimes $3,000, $4,000. That they could have it. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I never wanted to be too high and mighty on what we were as a company or what we were offering as a service. I mean, in the end, it's an above ground pool in someone's backyard. And like, there's only so much you can do to the outside to make it look cool and stylish. It's never going to be that. So don't try to be that, I guess is my view on it. I've always wanted to be sort of a very approachable, family friendly, dad joke kind of vibe going into our branding. And so, for most of our clients, when we go and install a pool in June or July, it is like being Santa Claus. It's people that have been suffering through a brutal summer in Phoenix, and we come and 6 hours later they're swimming in their pool. They're able to like have this great experience the same day and be in it, like you said, for 3 or 4 months in the summer. We get lots of comments from folks that are like, "Oh man, you saved my summer. This is like so much better. We were going to do X, Y, and Z, but plans fell through, and you guys came in and you had our pool up in a weekend, and this has been an amazing experience and super easy and convenient and all that stuff." So for us, it's when it's 115 for those of us that live in Phoenix, you don't really care what the body of water looks like. You just need to be in it.
I mean, the Salt River is like the most disgusting body of water imaginable, and people do that all the time.
People are fine in it. Yeah. So for me and I think for all of our clients, it's like they don't care. They just need something in the middle of the summer. They're not going to be outside anyway unless they're in a pool. And this is a way for that, again, to be a little more approachable than that 6-figure price tag that an in-ground pool might bring, and a more hassle-free experience, if you will.
Well, yeah. I want to talk about something you just mentioned, which I didn't think about. I know a lot of people who have pools at their home and no one ever uses it because they're just kind of used to it. They don't think about it. Some people have pools in their home and they go to other pools to use because it's more exciting. You mentioned they're excited. And I imagine for your repeat annual clients who've been with you 2, 3, 4 years, you said it's like Santa's like it is this moment of like the pool is coming. Yeah. Like they're creating more value that actually makes it more fun and more exciting. And then when everyone's tired and exhausted at the end of the summer, it's gone and they forget about it. And then it comes back again. So, to me, it's like, I bet utilization is much higher with this model than having it all the time.
I think there is an unspoken value to the temporary nature of our product in that, if you have a pool in your backyard, you're just kind of constantly being like, it's always there. I'm going to get into it. I'm going to get in next weekend, or I'm going to get in next week or whatever. And you just kind of take it for granted versus something, quite honestly, you've paid for, but is about to go away, whether it's a 2-month subscription or 4-month subscription, whatever it might be. That there's an end to this, and you better enjoy it. And quite honestly, for me, I mean, again, I'm customer number one. I have one of our pools in our backyard. When sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I want to go out there, but every time I get in, like, it's still fun. It's still enjoyable. But for whatever reason, there's like a barrier to entry. And I think if you have an in-ground pool, it's like, well, it's always there. And so I just don't really need to appreciate it. But for our temporary product, I think there's like an intrinsic value that is, because it's temporary, you appreciate it more.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, look, we are starting to turn the corner to wrapping up here. I want to know kind of some more final questions. Then I have a pitch for you. I have an idea.
Okay.
I'm going to level up your business.
All right. Awesome. I love it.
What's the biggest challenge today?
I think like any business, labor is always a challenge. Having quality team members in a seasonal business, heavily seasonal business is always a challenge. But I would say that our next frontier is really like, how do we expand this thing? I've got visions of now pools across the country and all across the Sun Belt and maybe more. And that's a scary cavern to, try to cross and like, how does that happen? Who do we partner with? How do we go to a different location that isn't in my backyard? How do we make that happen? So, to me, that's heavily on my mind is like, how do we make this even bigger across the country and bring our experience to lots of folks that, are inquiring across the country for now pools in their area?
Just ship 40 random pools to some dude and, wherever.
Figure it out.
Figure it out. There you go.
I know. We'll get it done.
I have a feeling this is going to be one of many podcasts because I feel that I try to keep these a little shorter. But dude, I'm so pumped and congratulations. Like,
thank you.
We've designed Pickle my career. Tens of thousands of businesses have come across. And not just because I know you, not just because you're an amazing guy, awesome dad, everything. Like when I saw this, I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. So really, really cool to tell the story. And I can't wait for, the summerly update where we get updates on the volume, how's it going. Final idea for you. Final idea. Actually, final idea that I want you to plug all your stuff.
Okay.
Here's an idea for the winter. I know you said jacuzzis or spas or whatever what the technical term is.
Yeah.
Winter trampolines. Trampolines, super fun for a while, then people stop using them.
Yeah.
Just saying.
You're not the first person to suggest that. So that has come across our desk here metaphorically. So I like it.
A couple $100. Just click add to cart and get it on the off season. Like
I think it's definitely brilliant. There's a lot of
not. It's just you're being really nice.
No, you are absolutely not the first person to bring it up. So somebody suggested you guys could be Now Tramps, which seems like it's a very different business. But I think the idea is solid. Whether we change any branding or not, I think might be a different story.
There's a lot of directions to go, but I love the creativity inside of it. I mean, I'd say it because I tried to put up one of those trampolines and it was a horrible project. And if I didn't have to do that, all right. Well, Ross, where should they go? We talked about the brand. What's the best place to find out more about your company and about you personally to follow your story?
Yeah. So obviously, Russ plugged the URL earlier, but nowpools.com is pretty memorable, pretty easy to find us there. And then for me personally on LinkedIn, Ross Novotny, Novotny. I'm sure we'll have a link in the show notes or something for that. But certainly, hit me up with a message or contact. If you want to bring Now Pools to your city across the country, you just let me know.
We'll get lined up for the either license or franchise path. We'll figure it out.
That's right.
Everyone, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Jar of Genius. And it was an awesome time. And my goal here is to just talk to people who are thinking creatively, tackling challenges in their own unique lane of genius. And Ross, it was super, super amazing to get caught up. And I hope that you got some big cannonballs lined up for you this weekend. So, and not too big of cannonballs. Obviously, pools aren't that deep, but anyway.
That's right. Thanks, Ross. I appreciate you having me on.
And for everyone, like Ross mentioned, we have show notes. So you can go over to jarofgenius.com, get links, get clips, share it, like it, all that fancy stuff, and subscribe. Get notified when we publish new episodes as well as other content here on the show. So thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your week. Thanks, Ross.
Thanks, Ross.
All right.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Jar of Genius, sponsored by Design Pickle. To learn more about the topics discussed, get access to any of the links mentioned, and submit ideas for future seasons, head over to jarofgenius.com. Now, if you enjoyed the show, you know the drill. A solid rating on your favorite podcast platform helps others find what we are creating and join the conversation. We'll see you next time, and never forget, creativity is your secret strategic weapon.